So we're looking at complex sentences for our writing section here. There will be a video I'll show you, and again, if you don't get audio, I really apologize. They are annotated, they have got text on them, and if you can go in later and just listen to them with audio, that would be fantastic. So today's topic is construct complex sentences consistently and accurately. Now, can everybody see my screen okay? I'm on the functional skills blue screen.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. So my laptop has been lagging since yesterday, so I apologize if it takes a while to swap over on screens. So the aims and outcomes of today is that you should, by the end of this session, you should be able to state what clear, concise, and precise writing is. You should know what the different formats for different document types are. Good morning, Clifford. How are you?
I'm fine, yeah.
Brilliant. Me too. Thank you.
Okay,
So we're just making a start right now. Put you on the register. You should be able to plan your writing to make it clear and organized, and you should be able to proofread your work. We've got Vivian joining too. Got a very good turnout today. So you should also be able to try and use clear, concise, and precise writing. So we covered this in a previous lesson. Know how much detail to use, and also be able to figure out what sort of length you should be writing certain documents down to. So how long should an instruction be? How long should a article be? How long should a letter be, and so on. So within your tests, when you get to them, you're actually going to be assessed on your ability to do the following things. So to communicate information, your ideas and opinions, put them down clearly, coherently, and effectively, and write a text to an appropriate level of detail, and also so that it meets a good and appropriate length, so that it meets the purpose of the audience. So you should be able to do all of these things and determine how long a piece of text should be. So, for example, if they ask you to write a letter or write an article to cover some arguments, it should be able to do that. So why is sentence structure important? And it is important because it really does help you to formulate and make sense of what you're actually doing. So at the level 2 qualifications, you're actually expected to use complex sentences. Now, these should be accurate and consistent. Now, your ability to write sentences is built on this. So you start off with a simple sentence, which will turn into a compound sentence, and then which will it can be adapted into a complex sentence. So a simple sentence is, I am busy. A compound sentence could be, I am busy because I have a lot of work to do. And a complex sentence would be, Afsha was very busy today because she had to teach 3 lessons and she had to mark 4 pieces of work. So it's giving more information. So we're going to watch a video, and again, if you don't have audio, I do apologize. Let's go on here. And it's about 2 minutes long, so it's not too long on here. So it doesn't seem to be wanting to work for me. Let's try that again. Right, so I can't get the video to work at the moment. Like I said, I've been having been having a little bit of issues with my connectivity, I think, for a day or so. So if you can go in and have a listen to this, it's only 2 minutes long, and it just covers what complex sentences are. But don't worry, it actually we cover the same topics within the PowerPoint as well. So when we look at identifying sentence types, we're just going to look at what are simple sentences, a compound sentence, and a complex sentence. Now I'll tell you what these are and give you examples as well. So A simple sentence will have a subject, a verb, and an object, and it'll make sense all on its own. So, I worked in a shop. That makes sense. You don't have to add anything else. Somebody might have said, where did you work? And I would just say, I worked in a shop. Nice, simple, clear. You understand what I've said. A compound sentence is where you put two simple sentences together. So you use a conjunction, so and, therefore, I, all of those. You might have some colons or semicolons. So it would be, I worked in a shop, but next month I start a new job in the leisure centre. Now here, you've got the conjunction, but, which joins it. Then you have a complex sentence. Now this has a main clause and at least one subordinate clause. Now if I just said, I worked in a shop, that'll make sense to you. That is the main clause. But the subordinate clause is where I'm giving you extra information. So you can either have this before the main clause or after or in the middle. It doesn't really matter. It's just giving you a lot more information. So the complex sentences, I left college. After I left college, I worked in a shop. So let's get rid of these. Remember, if you need extra information, please let me know and I can clarify. So a simple sentence composition. So we got over here. So we've got the subject is I, so it's me. Verb is worked and the object is a shop. So we got all three in here, subject, verb and object. I worked in a shop. Nice and simple and straightforward. It's not flowering it, it's just out there and that's it. A compound sentence is where you join two simple sentences together, but then you're using conjunction. So again, the sentence we had before, you got the first sentence, which was I worked in a shop. And we could just put full stop there and be done with it. But we don't do that. So we do I worked in a shop, but next month I start a new job in a leisure centre. Now I'll say this as two sentences now instead. So I worked in a shop, full stop, done. And then another sentence could be next month I start a new job in a leisure centre. But again, when you're writing these down, they're too simple and there's too many full stops, there's too many separate sentences. You want to look like you know exactly what you're doing. You want to make your work a little bit more professional. So it's nice to have conjunctions in, things like but, and, then. So a compound sentence, again, is we're using two simple sentences. You've got subordinate clauses. So you've got one subordinate clause is after I left college. But the main clause is I worked in a shop. So this is just giving you extra information. So after I left college, I worked in a shop. And now we're going to look at these sentence types and I'll tell you what they are. So a simple sentence would just be the cafe was busy. Now we're going to turn this into a bit more of a complex sentence. Although the cafe was busy, the waitress managed to serve all the customers. Simple, the cafe shuts at 5 p.m. We're going to turn it into, let's do a compound sentence now. So the cafe was busy. We know it says cafe was busy here as a simple sentence, but let's stick two sentences together to make it into a compound. Because the cakes were very popular. So we could have done ignored because and made two simple sentences and said the cafe was busy. Full stop. Then put a capital there. The cakes were very popular. They wouldn't stand alone, they would both work, but then they're too simple. They're just two simple sentences. So we put because. The cafe was busy because the cakes were popular. And then the cafe shuts at 5 p.m. Again, we've got the same one, simple. And then the cafe, which is on the main square, shuts at 5 p.m. So you've got your main clause over here, which is just the cafe. We know that that's what we're talking about. The main clause is the cafe shuts at 5 p.m. But then we've got a subordinate clause, which is giving us some extra information in the middle. So the cafe, which is in the middle of the square, in the main of the square, it shuts at 5 p.m. So this little table here just identifies how easy it is to make your sentences a little bit more complex to add how to put compound sentences together. And to be honest, these things you probably do unconsciously anyway without even realizing it when you're writing things down. So is everyone okay with what we've gone over so far?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Brilliant. So we've got complex sentences and subordinate clauses. So what I'm going to read now is a complex sentence, and we're going to tell you why. So the cafe, which is on the main square, shuts at 5 p.m. So we know that we're talking about a cafe. The main sentence, the main clause, we're talking about a cafe, because if we just said the cafe shuts at 5 p.m., it makes sense on its own. So if that sentence makes sense on its own, then it's a main clause. Then we've got the additional information. So in this case, it is which is on the main square. So if we just said, if I came to you and I said, Ben, which is on the main square, it wouldn't make sense to you, would it? But if I said to you, Lydia, the cafe shuts at 5 p.m., that makes sense. So a subordinate clause is something that if it's on its own, doesn't make sense. So the subordinate clause will sometimes split the main clause up. So just to make it more interesting, so you could write, the cafe shuts at 5 p.m., which is on the main square, but that wouldn't make sense. So you will sometimes have to split up the main clause. So you got over here, as you can quite clearly see, main clause, the cafe, main clause. Then you got main clause, subordinate clause, then main clause. So the middle information has just given you extra information. It's put down a subordinate clause, you've got commas in there, and it just split the information up to make it into a nice complex sentence, which is very good for a writing style. Then we have identifying main and subordinate clauses. So we're going to read these and we're going to see which one is a main clause and which one is subordinate. So if I just said before opening the cafe, it wouldn't make much sense what's happening before opening the cafe. So I could say Hannah empties the bins, and that could be a standalone sentence. It could be simple and that's it. So the main clause is Hannah empties the bins. And the full complex sentence would be before opening the cafe, Hannah empties the bins. And again, Hannah owns the cafe, full stop, that's it, main clause. That makes sense. But to give it more information, we would do, which is always busy, so you added your subordinate clause. So you got Hannah, who is the main person, main clause, who runs the cafe is a subordinate clause, and then needs to hire more staff. So the sentence could be, Hannah needs to hire more staff, but we want to make it complex, which is why we split it up with the fact that Hannah, we know she runs the cafe and she needs more staff. And then again, same thing with another sentence. Matthew, he's the topic, he's the subject, he's the main clause, who is in college. That's the extra information about him, has a part-time job at the cafe. Now, if we were to get rid of all of these subordinate clauses, so if I put a line to them all of these sentences still make sense even without these. So, but if I was to do it the other way around and get rid of all the main clauses, they don't make sense. So I'm going to read them without the main clause, and then hopefully it'll be a bit. So, which is always busy, who runs the cafe, who is in college. None of these make sense. So which is why the subordinate clauses are those pieces of information, those pieces of writing that if they're read on their own, then they don't make any sense. So is that clear with what I was saying on there? Does everybody understand that part?
Yes.
Yeah? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lydia. So why do we actually use complex sentences? So when you're doing your writing exam, you're actually going to get extra marks. So you're going to get marks for writing in your test. So when you do complex sentences, if you've got a 4-marker, for example, if you do a couple of simple sentences, your examiner might say, oh, okay, this is worth 2 marks. But if you're using complex sentences, then you know that you're getting all that extra information that needs to be put in there. You're actually including it. That will get you more marks. So a good writer will put down complex sentences. They'll use them to combine their ideas. They'll help them to make their writing more interesting. Because if I say Hannah owns a cafe or George works in a shop, they're boring. They're not, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm not interested in this. But if you put more detail into it, it makes it more complex. You're putting more information into it. And it makes you want to your audience want to read your work as well. It's more interesting and it's got more detail in it and it's more fun to read. So we've got 2 sentences here. We've got first, simple, straightforward, I was disappointed. The goods I had paid for failed to arrive on time. 2 sentences which on their own, they're fine, they're okay, they're a bit boring, but they're okay. But this one makes more sense to me and it appeals to me more. So I was disappointed when the goods I had paid for failed to arrive on time. So it makes it a lot more interesting, doesn't it, having it in that way? So these complex sentences, they can help you to put down the importance of what you're talking about and also include all of the extra details that you're really wanting to get in. So another one would be even more complex. So after paying for next day delivery, I was devastated that the goods failed to arrive on time. So again, same sentences. I was disappointed. My items didn't arrive on time, but I paid for them. But they're making them a lot more interesting. Now you know exactly what that person was feeling, right? They must have been so excited to get the items that they paid for. And they're not just disappointed, they're devastated. So it's emotive language there as well. So you can include all of this in when you're doing your sentences. So quiz time. And I love these parts because you're all so excellent at them. So with the quiz, there's 6 questions here. If you've got eagle eyes, you'll notice something later on and I'll ask you what you noticed. So, what is a complex sentence? A sentence that makes sense. 2 sentences joined with a conjunction. 1 that contains a subject, a verb, and an object, or a sentence with a main and at least 1 subordinate clause.
D.
Well, yes, D. That's correct. It's a sentence that has a main clause and at least 1 subordinate clause. Sometimes you might find there'll be a sentence that's got more than 1 subordinate clause. So at level 2 writing, you need to be able to form, okay, so A is all of them, B, C, and D, simple sentences, compound sentences, or complex sentences.
A.
Yes, well done. It is all of them, so you should be able to do simple, compound, and complex. So, a sentence with a main clause and a subordinate clause is known as A, difficult sentence, B, compound sentence, C, simple sentence, or D, complex sentence.
D.
Yes, well done. Very well done. And ideas in a paragraph. So, ideas in a paragraph, to give you a bit of an idea, there can actually be more than 1 answer for this. So, they must all relate to 1 idea, should have enough detail, A, B, and D, or should fit logically together.
A. All of them.
I won't say that it's all of them.
A. No.
A, definitely, yes.
D.
And 1 more. A and D, well done, yes. So they should relate to 1 idea and they should fit logically together. So on here, a main clause. So what is a main clause? Can't make sense on its own, always has a comma, can make sense on its own, or should come first.
C.
Yes, can always make sense on its own. Well done. That is what a main clause is. And a subordinate clause. So does it make sense on its own? Kind of pray in the middle, beginning, or end of a sentence? Gives extra detail, or A, B, and C?
Maybe
B.
Yes, A, B, and C, or it's all of them, yes. So it can't make sense on its own. It can be at the beginning, middle, or end, and it does give you extra detail. And that's it. So we've got all through that. Well done. So today we've looked at what clear, concise, and precise writing is. We looked at different formats for different documents. You should be able to plan your writing. You should be able to proofread your work. And you should be able to, use clear, concise, and precise writing. Hopefully you'll know what sort of detail to use within your work and what the length of each of the documents should be. So before I go on to paragraphs, I want to show you the homework for here. And it's that one. So I've emailed this out this morning. So on here, we just want you to go through these. It first tells you what a simple sentence is, compound and complex. So just a recap. Then we go down, and I want you to tell me what these are. Simple, compound, complex. So we'll work through the first two together just to get a bit of an idea. And then we can, I'll let you complete that in your own time.
Simple, first one.
Well done, yeah. I would definitely agree, simple. What about the next one? Although the bus was empty, the driver still had to wait at every stop.
Complex.
Yes, complex.
Complex, well done. And that's it. I don't want a big sentence here. Just write simple, complex, or compound. And then over here, get a highlighter and or highlight it in a different way. So on here, you're going to be underlining or identifying the main and subordinate clauses on here. So Amir buys a weekly bus pass and before Monday morning. So I know Amir buys a bus pass is the main clause. So I've highlighted that section there. Then I could do this before subordinate clause. I could change my highlight and I could do it in a different way. And it just doesn't matter what color you use. Even if you're just underlining it, you can underline them both separately. Even that will be fine. Brilliant. So I'll turn the...
Before Monday morning.